get started. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Common Council of Jasper for April 19th, 2023. Could we please have roll call?
Presiding Officer Mayor Dean Vonderhyde. Councilmember John Schrader.
Here.
Councilmember Chad Leakin.
Present.
Councilmember Dave Hurst.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Lori.
Present.
Councilmember Kevin Manley.
Here.
Councilmember Nancy Eckerly. Here. Councilmember Philip Mundy.
Present.
City Attorney Renee Kabrick.
Here.
Clerk Treasurer Kirsten Canese, present. In order to have a quorum, a majority of the council members must be in attendance. All of the members are in attendance, which is a majority. Therefore, there is a quorum for this meeting.
Thank you, and if you would, please pause for a moment of personal reflection. Thank you, and all that are able, would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to start out this evening with a special recognition, firefighter recognition. And so, Chief, would you like to come up?
Sure. So, as you know, anytime our tones are activated on our pagers, we anxiously wait to hear the message and hear the call. And last year in May, we were called to a residence in Jasper, and it was a call like nothing we've ever responded to. I was actually out of town that day, so here to tell the story tonight is the paramedic that was on duty for Memorial Hospital Ambulance Service, Scott Fulcher. So Scott, if you come up, it's a great story, something that we've never experienced. So Scott, it's all yours.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you all for allowing me to tell this story. It's a fantastic story. And I mean no disrespect, but from time to time I'm going to turn this direction because there are people out here that were a part of this, a part of something that in 15 years of being in EMS I've never been a part of. It was an amazing thing. Let me start by giving you, well, the beginning. On May 28, 2022, Unit 220 of Memorial Hospital Ambulance Service and Jasper Fire Department were dispatched to a residence on the north side of Jasper for a child with difficulty breathing. While responding, we were advised that this was not a child with difficulty breathing, but an infant of 25 weeks gestation who had just been delivered and was struggling to breathe. It's amazing technology, isn't it? We can put everything down and plan for all of it, but the second you hear something like that fly across the radio, the plans flew out the window. We didn't know what we were walking into. I remember pulling up on the north side of town in my ambulance, seeing a few fire trucks with blue lights still running, and not knowing what we were walking into. We walked in the front door of the residence, and as you do, there is a hallway that points into a living area, a living room. And I didn't know where anyone was at. They weren't there. So I did what any good person would do. I tried to find where they were at, and I yelled, "Marco!" And then kind of paused to hear if I heard a polo. I didn't. I saw Greg. He popped around the corner holding an infant that was so incredibly small, wrapped in a towel. And he looked at me and he said, "Scott, I don't know if she has a pulse." I've known Greg for over 15 years. We started out together the first time I met him on a different fire department, Jefferson Township in Otwell. I've watched his career grow, he's watched mine. And it's amazing that we get to work together now. I looked at Greg, and after a moment of checking for a pulse, I realized that the infant didn't have one. And I told him to start CPR. At that moment, Greg Vonderhyde did something that I'm not sure anyone else was capable of doing in that instant. He began compressions like this. so small that if you're watching online, you may not even be able to see my fingers move. But any farther, and this little girl would have never made it. He led me down the hall to where the mother was at, as well as the father, Chris and Jessica. I met them for only an instant, as I got to call my partner in to take care of Jessica, and I followed Greg running out the door. So we cleared the door. Greg ran straight to the ambulance. He went right in, got right to work. Matt Allen was getting our ambulance cot out, and I jumped in the side door, slammed it shut, looked at Matt and said, either get in or shut the doors. He did both. Seth Eckstein was in the back, talking to Greg, asking if he needed anything, and Nick Nowakowski jumped in the driver's seat. Those three each played a wonderful role that day, between Matt and Seth bracing Greg so that he didn't slide around and compress too deeply, and Nick driving us across town, never hitting a bump, it felt like. I looked down at this little girl, and I don't know that I can tell you what I saw. I don't know that I can impart that. She was gray. Her lips were blue. Her skin was almost translucent. And yet there was Greg the entire time, never missing a beat. I grabbed a bag valve mask that we had in the truck. It was the smallest one we had. It's for neonates. The mask is meant to cover just the mouth and nose. Our mask covered her entire face. It was far too big for such a small child. We had nothing. I'm a paramedic by trade, and all of the tools in the back of that ambulance didn't matter. I had nothing. But I had Greg. We worked on that little girl all the way to the hospital. As we turned on 9th Street, I remember thinking to myself, you know, I need to start getting these guys ready. These outcomes don't go well. 25 weeks gestation outside of a hospital birth, those don't end well. And I got ready to say those words to them, and I hear Greg's voice go, Scott! I looked over and said, what? And he said, look. And through her chest, you could see her tiny little heart beating. He looked at me and said, what do I do? He said, it's too slow, keep going. And he never questioned. Right back to it. As we rolled into the emergency department and we got to the doctors and all the people that I was so glad to see, we no longer needed CPR. She had started to breathe somewhat on her own. Her skin was no longer gray and translucent, but the prettiest pink you'd ever seen in your life. We turned over to care, and I looked to tell Greg thank you. He was gone. He'd slipped off. Another day in his job. I didn't even get to tell him thank you until later on when I got to text him. And I had to ask Wayne for his number, so, there was that. Everybody worked hard that day, and the pieces all came together to make the best outcome I've ever heard of for one Miss Amelia. She's back there.
Beauty.
But none of it would have happened without Greg. So tonight, it's an incredibly humbling thing to get to stand here and tell you all this story. Trying to do it without crying myself. Because it is humbling to see what can be done. And it was the highlight of my career so far, to be a part of the day that Greg Vonderheide saved a life. Thank you.
But in recognition of what Greg accomplished here, we have a certificate, and it's presented to Greg Bonder Hyde in recognition of heroism in action. And presented this day, April 19th, 2023, for your actions on May 28th, 2022. So, again, thank you, and I know you tickled to death to have this little girl in your hands. So congratulations to you all. I think it is a testimony that Greg is one of many of our public safety employees that responds. They're just there when you need them. And I don't think you have to think twice about it. They'll do whatever they need to do to help another individual along. And I'm just proud of this department for what you do together, because when you meet and you go through training, it's not always fun, but when the outcome's like this, it's worth it. So I appreciate that so much.
So if we could grab another picture with Evan and Matt and whoever else, Nick, whoever else was
Bring
part
the
of that
others
scene.
responded, yeah.
Because it always takes,
Let me
it
get
always
out
takes a
of it.
group.
Let me get out of it. You guys, family in the fire department. You wanna, Matt, you wanna against the wall, you think, be a little easier? Can we turn that way? Yeah.
Here, tell you what, I'm gonna step out. I was not there that day.
1, 2, 3. Congratulations and thank you for your service, Greg.
We need to get a picture with Scott yet up here.
Oh, yeah. Well, Scott should have been up there.
Sorry, Scott.
So now would be a good time to exit if you're not planning on taking. And
Yeah. The next 2 hours.
Ralph, they're not all here for you. Yeah, you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like to. Chief will be giving his update later in the meeting, so. Well, while they're exiting, I think we can go ahead and take some official action with regard to the minutes. The minutes were sent out. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
There were a few corrections.
The minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as they were presented.
There were a couple corrections I just want to point out, yeah. On page 2, ordinance number 2023-9, ordinance was misspelled. Page 3, 2023-11, additional was misspelled. I'm not sure why my spell check doesn't catch all caps, but it doesn't. Page 3, 2023-6, property was misspelled. And on page 4, 2023-10, that was what Chad had pointed out, carried, started with a 6. And then I noticed in the adjournment section, I had motion carried 7-0, but there was only 6 of you here that night, so I corrected that also.
Okay, so
Changes. And thank you for correcting those spelling changes. That's, it doesn't look good when they're not spelled right, but nothing against you. We all do it. But I'll make a motion to approve those.
Motion,
I'll second.
I have a second from Chad. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. So we have with us this evening Colonel Handy. Would you like to take the podium?
Mayor, council members, thanks for having us here tonight. Colonel Matthew Handy, Indiana National Guard. I'm also an aviation brigade commander. We are 14,500 strong, and I have no intention of trying to upstage what we just heard, which was an amazing story. But some of that same spirit that he demonstrated is the same spirit that your unit here in Jasper has within their ranks. There's 197 soldiers authorized for Jasper, of which there's about 160 to 170 right now assigned to the unit. It's a military police company with the associated equipment, rifles, Humvees. I think everybody should know what a Humvee is. Light military tactical vehicles, which is a truck, and other equipment. Well-trained unit, a unit with a proud heritage that goes back decades, almost to the beginning of the century. That unit has been part of your community. The same members that swore to defend our nation and our state are the same members that work for you, that go to church or school with you, and work with you day to day. And it's what is unique from the National Guard is that community tie, and that's one of the reasons I'm here today, just to espouse that. Hopefully it's something you already know. If it isn't, then shame on us, and I need to tell that story better. General Lyles, our Adjutant General, also has a plan as small communities have armories or readiness centers spread throughout the state. We are working on a plan to, next 20 to 40 years, to modernize most of those armories, mothball or change ownership into some. But for the most part, we have the commitment from the state and the federal government at some point to update and modernize those readiness centers that are so key for us to have a tie to a community and answer the call, whether that's on state active duty or federal service. So that plan is starting to move forward already with a couple of armories, and Mr. Brady will talk about that, just brush on that. What we talked about yesterday also was plans for your armory as well, and how that can be a key part of your future with other entities. And we're looking forward to that model possibly being used in other cities as well. So we look forward to talking about that, sharing ideas. I don't think we had to go ad nauseum with that tonight, but just wanted to let you know that we think it's a great opportunity, and we know it's a long-term project, but I think it's I and our leadership think it's one that's going to bear fruit in the near future, hopefully. And as if there's areas we need to communicate on, issues that come up, and there will be, we know that, I think us fostering that communication now, figuring out processes and regular discussions on where we need to go is key. And however you see us helping with that, we're more than willing to do so. I am sure you appreciate some of the hurdles we will have to go through, but nothing is in the realm of impossible. So with that said, I discussed briefly at a macro level, the Indiana National Guard, 14,500. At the local level, 197 authorizations around there, and about 160, 170 soldiers. Of those, 30 to 40% are from Jasper. So there is a strong tie locally as well with that as well. So don't think that since the soldiers aren't there every day, that they're not doing their duty at some point or another. It isn't just 2 weekends or 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. Whether it be distance learning where they're on a computer or meetings where they're discussing next month's training, it's usually a couple nights a week that most guardsmen dedicate to protect you and your family. So with that said, Also, with the modernization plan that we have for the next armories or armories as they modernize in the future, I think this is a good time to hand it off to Mr. Brady to discuss specifics about the Jasper Armory, its physical history, structure-wise, and possible plans ahead for changing that. Any questions so far? Okay. I know I'm a pilot, so I do talk with my hands a lot, so I try not to do that. But Mr. Brady, thanks.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, so I'm Jason Brady. I'm the Construction Facilities Management Officer for the Indiana National Guard, and kind of acting in that role right now while Colonel Steve Hines is deployed to Kosovo with a unit from the Indiana National Guard. So our facilities, most of them are not modern. So our average age of our facilities is about 58 years. You know, they were built in the 1960s, 70s. The Army has transformed, different size equipment, different unit structures, you know, a lot bigger. They were not designed for females at the time, so most of our facilities do not have adequate female facilities, you know, showers, latrines in general, lactation rooms. So those are areas that we're really looking to modernize. Window air conditioning is another thing, which during COVID, you know, it's really, I think, kind of a blessing for us. You know, great response, we assisted. A lot of armories were used as testing sites. But one thing we realized is as the Department of Health and individuals were using those during the summer, there was no air conditioning on the gym floor, the drill floor. So it's quickly realized that, you know, that kind of 80-degree mark, hey, we're done. We can't do any more testing. We can't do, you know, vaccine administration. So the state realized that as well, and we're really just utilizing that experience to move forward. So if you don't know, you probably don't, our facilities, most of them are on state property, and when we do a project, they require a state share. Most of them, it's 50-50, 50% federal, 50% state share. But ultimately, we've seen an influx in really financial assistance from the state since COVID. So we're really utilizing that, working this modernization strategy that Colonel Handy mentioned. We've done projects in Bluffton. We have one ongoing in Danville right now, and right now we're designing one in Martinsville. After that, Bloomington and Columbus and Jasper. Okay, so we are working, we've been working with the mayor and his staff, the Y hospital, really to develop a joint community center, and we're looking forward to it. So specific to Jasper, kind of mentioned age earlier, it's built 1962. It's about 23,000 square foot facility, and again, it's aging, it needs modernized. So we are working with National Guard Bureau. We've been basically given approval to have design funding for that project. And then our assumption is, since we've received design funding, normally they don't give you design funding unless they're going to approve a project in the future. So we're really looking forward to that. The state, not just working together with the city, but we do have some state funding already to improve the latrine facilities there. So it's really going to be a joint effort to make this happen. I guess at this point, if there's any specific questions that you might have, not just to Jasper Armory, but National Guard as a whole.
Do you have a rough timeline when some of that would be taking place? Is it a year, 2 years?
Yeah, so really, working with the city to make sure that our efforts are in line with the city's timeline. We do have some flexibility. So in other words, we can do a design with the hope that we know what architectural firm that would be utilized for a future project, because it does have to be coordinated. But we can do a design up front and basically kind of hold that on the shelf until design is completed here. If we do get the funding from National Guard Bureau in our fiscal year 24, again, we can kind of wait till the end of that fiscal year to actually execute a contract for construction. And our fiscal year goes from October 1st through 30 September. So we do have flexibility, but we do have funding this year that we will need to execute by the 30th of September to start a design. But again, we will work, and I don't know how much, the planning and concepts, but, definitely a joint effort with the mayor's staff to make that happen.
So are you going to tear down the whole building, the whole armory?
It'll be, from our end, we'll have modernization funding and then also rehabilitation funding. So modernization would, for instance, could be utilized to, make sure our facade is updated to match the community center. So it, it looks great, not only for the community, but, for soldiers that can be a part of that unit. And then kind of the interior stuff, whether, it's the flooring, the latrines, updating the HVAC systems. So it's kind of two pots of money that we will work together. But yeah, we're not going to tear down the armory.
And we'll leave the recently renovated
We have
maintenance
a-
building.
We have failed to mention that, but if you weren't aware, we have a facility, call it FMS, but basically a maintenance shop that's located on the property. And actually, it received an addition a couple years ago, I think in 2021, project there. So that will remain as well.
It was a nice addition. They came in front of the planning commission and made sure everything was gonna jive with our codes, and it was great. Looked nice. You guys did a wonderful job rehabbing the motor pool there and making your expansion.
We were talking prior to this meeting about the difficulties of entities collaborating on a single project, as in the past we had with the city and the library on the Tin Clark Cultural Center. Now you have 4 entities, stakeholders that are really involved in this, and the difficulty level has gone exponentially up as a result, but I think I read from all of the stakeholders the desire to get it accomplished, and I think that's a hats off. The idea of partnering actually came from the National Guard. We approached them whether they would sell the property, and they came back that, well, they want to do an upgrade and use it both for recruiting and what their needs were, and a lot of those needs are the same. So rather than having twice the spend, let's leverage that and into one facility. And I think it's been great dialogue up to this point, and eventually we're going to get some ground broken on it,
Thank you.
Being a neighbor to your building, I'm excited to see it happen. I think it's going to be great for the community, so appreciate your hard work on this. It's going to be great.
I'm going to put my other hat on.
Okay.
Chamber Director Colonel Handy was at our board meeting yesterday, and he had a very nice presentation also, and we talked about perhaps before the referendum goes through, to do an open house, a chamber timeout from business, have some drawings, prototypes, things like that, and bring people from the community into the building, because on a daily basis, the community never goes into the armory, doesn't even know what's behind those walls. And so working together on a cooperative basis that way, also along with the city, to do something like that.
Good idea.
Yeah, and we're all for that. I think it's a great opportunity again to get community involvement and buy-in on the vision.
Colonel Handy, want to thank you for coming down today, and Jason, thank you for making the trip down and talk about the National Guard and the service that you guys provide, and thank you for your service.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I get to do what I love, and I think everybody else in our organization would say the same.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay for our tax abatements as well,
Scintillating business. You got a 3 hour.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is resolution number 2023-5. This is a resolution approving bonds and lease for an outdoor pool project. Could I have a motion to have the resolution read in full or by title only?
I'll make the motion to read by title only, please, Mayor.
Motion from Paul to read by title only,
I'll second.
and I have a second from Phil. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, could I have the city attorney read resolution number 2023-5 by title only?
Sorry. Resolution number 2023-5, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, approving bonds and lease for an outdoor pool project.
Motion to pass and adopt resolution number 2023-5.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Kevin. Second from John. Further discussion?
Mayor, I'll just say this resolution is consistent with the documents that were approved by the Redevelopment Commission and the Redevelopment Authority for the outdoor swimming pool project for the Parks Department.
And Mayor, I don't really have a comment about it, but just so that people in the public know, this is not the project the Armory was talking about. This is the outdoor pool project, which is separate.
This is to replace the existing outdoor pool.
Correct.
I made some observations that it looks as if we have some wiggle room, some contingencies built into our projections. So for example, the resolution says we can finance as long as 16 years. The projections from Baker Tilly, if we issue tax exempt bonds, then we're looking at probably a schedule of maybe 12 years. So that's hopeful. In the projections, we were looking at about a $7 million financing price tag, and so the wiggle room there, 8.5. That's also hopeful. We'd tend toward the 7 is a great hope for me. And then the interest rate there, I think, is the projections used were better than what's being authorized. So I hope we can get in under in all those counts. I did have a question about. In the projections, we're not capitalizing interest, but we are authorizing that possibility with this resolution. So I'm just wondering if that's necessary.
To authorize it, I would say that, again, it's similar to the other variables that we want to allow for any of the possibilities that we may have to use, hoping that we don't have to, but otherwise we would have to come back and go through this process. And so the goal is to just do this once.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. I have a motion from Kevin and a second from John. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Resolution 2023-5 is passed. Now, we get to the tax abatement compliance. And with that, I'm going to go down in order that we have listed in the document. So the first one up would be Diana Bernatsky with Jasper Lofts. Is she here? Yep.
Corporate. Again, my name is Melissa Claridge. I'm the new community manager at the Jasper Lofts. Been there about 6 months, and got an email last week that said I need to come to a council meeting. I don't know why I'm here, to be honest. So if I can help in any way, I'll try.
Thank you for being here.
Melissa, these tax abatements were provided through the council to the organization and to qualify, they had to meet certain qualifications, if you will. So the forms that have been submitted, has council had a chance to review the forms? Any questions that might be directed toward Melissa with regard to those?
I believe on this one, I think we were not talking about a ton of employees, usually a manager and a maintenance person. We've gone through this last several years on there. We got nice salaries there, but we took a building that had a valuation of just under 400,000, converted it into a $1.5 million investment into it for bringing it to a total of about $2 million in there. I found the Jasper Lofts LLC to be in compliance with their payment.
All for Jasper Lofts to be in compliance. I have a second from Kevin. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and then we have Vine Street.
You're good, thank you.
She's here for, oh,
Are you here for Vine Street? No? Good evening.
State your name.
My name is Tawana Lynch, Community Manager of Vine Street Lofts.
Yeah. And, what you guys came into us looking for was we had an old building on there that had a valuation of roughly $55,000. Bunch of money back into that one value. The proposed project, when it was all finished, coming in about 13.1 million on there. Installed or invested an additional $1,048,000 tax credits come in on that, but it looks like we again had an improvement of about 1.5 million on the property. The two jobs again with the management and the maintenance, and I would find them in substantial compliance with.
Paul, be in compliance?
I'll second.
Second from John. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Tawana.
Paul, sounds like you got a new job here, by the way.
Next one is Kimball Hospitality with Tanya Maringer.
Good evening.
Hi.
At least that I've seen you all.
Any questions with regard to Kimball Hospitality? And there's actually two, one for the Finish Line and one for 16th Street property.
Since nobody else wants to speak up, I'll go ahead and take the Finish Line one. We'll start with is again.
doing such a good job.
Yeah. So again, when we started this off, the goal was to get 142 employees, the current employees that you had, and you stand right now at 154 on there. So you retained all 142. We originally were looking to add 20 jobs to that. Put some abatements in for some machine. Looks like we've got 12 of those 20 in there, but our salary jump is in excess of $200,000. So again, with that addition of that equipment on the Finish Line, I find the Kimball Hospitality Finish Line group in substantial compliance.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion from Paul and a second from Nancy. Any further discussion on it? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 16th Street?
Again, on the 16th Street, it looked like we were talking about adding some valuation, some equipment again. Again, started in at just the shade under $5.6 million. Oh, excuse me, $1.6 million, right? And we had an assessed value that we added in there at almost 1.7 with the new equipment. The net valuation on the completion of the property, and my eyes are getting a little worse. Small numbers, but looks like about $9.1 million with an increased valuation of 2.1 on there. So again, I would find this abatement to remain in substantial compliance for 23-24.
Motion from Paul
I'll second.
and a second from Dave. Further discussion on this? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Appreciate what you do. Park Place, Ruger Kirsteins. Ruger wasn't able to be here this evening. Apologized and said he would answer any questions anyone had regarding Park Place. And there is a Phase 1 and a Phase 2. I'd say at this point in time, let's continue to keep them separated as we approve them. So with Park Place, Phase 1.
Park Place, the entire project, Phase 1, looked like the entire project was going to be a valuation based upon $2.8 million in there. They have got Phase 1 complete. Actually just drove through the other night again, and Phase 2 looks like it is just about finished. We got some final paving to put down yet, a few piles to move around, but looked like that was good. Our increase in evaluation on that one added $86,900 upon the completion. $90,000 bump in the valuation or the assessment for this year. So again, I will find Park Place Estates 1 LLC in substantial compliance with their tax abatement.
Motion from Paul,
I'll second.
second from Chad. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Continuing on with that one, the second phase, again, which added more apartments, has their community room. They had a basketball goal. It looked like that they added some other outdoor equipment, a nice shelter house for kids to get on the bus and stay out of the weather when the time comes. A cul-de-sac in there. The nature walking trail and the dog parks got up there for the residents. So again, noticing that project, this would be the second of 3 phases coming along for them, and when we drove through the other night, it looked like it was fairly full again. So I would find Phase 2 of Park Place Estates in substantial compliance.
I have a motion from Paul that compliance, and I have a second from Kevin. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think as quickly as these are finished, they're getting filled. That's the, that's how high the demand is here locally for apartments and real estate, so really appreciate that. And then, next I have Roger Sang, 3 Peoples.
Roger Sang, CPA representing 3 People's Properties. That is the real estate owning entity for Cash Wagner and Associates. It's the old Jofco building, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So Paul will give you a little rest here. I believe this is our 9th and final year for the abatement renewal. And now this year, we previously had personal property equipment on the Cash Wagner side that we're not going to renew because they've removed a lot of that, replaced the GPS equipment. So it determined it wasn't cost effective to go through all the paperwork to renew that since the majority of that equipment's no longer in service. So now we're just going to renew here for the real estate entity, the Jofco building. And I believe we were at 280 evaluation before the project. I'm sorry, 255, and then we were at 479 after. And they're continuing to put good investment in that facility, the live wire co-working space, and they've got some office renovations that they're still continuing to do up on the 2nd floor. So that paid some dividends, and they've recovered in their employment from last year with kind of some struggles, but they're well above where they said they would be. 28 employees currently. So yes.
Do all those 28 work out of that building?
They have a couple in Evansville. They have an Evansville 2nd location office, but the majority are here in Jasper. Yeah.
One thing I did note on there again was what we were looking at our salaries when we started this, what they had in the building, we've gone almost 9-fold.
The highest it's been at this of all the years. Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to approve 3 People's Properties if they're in substantial compliance.
Motion from Kevin and a second from Nancy. Discussion on this.
Hearing none, all in
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, Roger.
Then I have German American Bank, Scott Miller.
Mayor, I'm going to abstain from this one since I'm still employed there. Short timer, but still there.
You know John Trader is abstaining from voting.
Right, good evening. I am Scott Miller, the Facilities Manager for German American Bank, and I'm here seeking approval tonight for substantial compliance on our CF1 Real Property Resolution 2017-14. This is for our operations center out on 12th Avenue. So, originally we had figured, based on the SB1, that we would have 96 employees located at that facility, and we had figured that we would create 4 newly designed
Positions.
additional employees and spaces for them. In actuality, we've got, today we have 124 employees, and we have a total of 18 newly created positions at that facility. As far as our salaries, we had estimated $116,000 for those 4 newly created spaces, positions, and we are now at 1.1 million and change. So, based on our records from last year, it was a slow year this last year. We only created 1 new position for out there. So,
Do you have plenty of room for more people?
we have a little bit of space yet. Yeah.
Those are some outstanding numbers. That's great.
It's not scaring them off, Kevin. We approved on the planning side, new garage facility out there for the maintenance shed, this
Did.
last year. And we talked about that. We condensed that lot down, so left plenty of room for the next facility to be built next door and filled, right?
That's right.
Good job.
German American Bank in substantial compliance if there's no other questions.
Okay, I have Chad makes a motion and a second by Kevin. Further discussion. Those are some pretty healthy numbers, Scott, and we really do appreciate the investment of German American Bank. Hearing no other questions, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Next is Ralph Schwank, Jasper Engines.
Mayor, I need to abstain from voting on this one because Ralph decided to be employed for another year.
You're not retiring yet. Ralph Schwank, representing Jasper Engine Exchange in regards to the tax abatement. I believe we're on the 9th year out of the 10-year deal that that was approved back in 2014, and we are still well in compliance as far as I can tell in regards to the employees and the spend.
Killing it, Ralph.
So I was going to let Paul do the numbers if he wants to or whatever, but
You are doing just fine there.
The number of employees and the salary increases are just substantial, so.
yeah, well, yeah, it's necessary evil to continue to increase the rates every year, more than once a year, so.
I'll make a motion to approve Jasper Engine Exchange substantial compliance.
Motion from Kevin,
I'll second.
second from Chad. Further discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Note that Phil Mundy had abstained. Thank you again for,
He's got another one.
The real estate.
Yeah, I get
Yep.
Second one, I guess, is related to the, was it related to the real estate, wasn't it? And no substantial increases in spend on the real estate related to this. I believe we were in compliant before, so.
Again, just a note, and for the public's a little bit of knowledge, that you guys had initially sought to add 100 positions on this with a salary range of roughly $3.2 million, and wound up adding 260. So 160 beyond your expectations. Probably still not enough. Could use a few more.
Right, we're still looking for more. I believe we've got 70 on the hire list company-wide and 27 in Du Bois County, so.
That salary range, you know, almost 4 times, $12,357,000 in salaries paid on those additional jobs. So again, thank you guys very much. It's wonderful keeping everybody employed and giving them plenty of hours, as I understand.
So was that a motion?
Mayor, I'll make,
Motion to approve as substantial compliance. Yep.
I'll second that.
The motion, Nancy with a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And note again that Phil,
Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Ralph.
for everything. Jasper Chair Company. Is that right? Yep.
I believe Jeff Barth indicated that he was going to come. I did tell them that 6:30, so he may just not be here yet.
Let's hold on that to the end. Braun Family Properties.
Hi, Jeff Braun, representing Braun Family Properties. It's resolution number 2012-8, 2012-11. There was also Meyer Distributing on that resolution as well. These two we're quite a bit above. We have been for quite some time, but looking at the totals here, it looks like we're about 294, we're 307 above what we initially projected, so. I don't know any questions on that? It's still kind of just been going. The train's moving.
Good.
It's along for the ride.
And we, you know, Jeff, you took us through a nice little tour last year, and we've seen a lot of this property, so it's unbelievable. So I'll make a motion to approve the.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could do more, but we've got a little, as I've mentioned previous meetings, I mean, we have a little easier reallocating labor around the country just by the nature of our business. But yeah, I mean, 70 to 100, bring them in the door. So that's like a lot of people, but yeah, we've been fine. We kind of build that into our recruiting strategy and everything, so.
So this is specific to 2012-8
Yeah, that's
and 2012-11.
That's right. And then the other, or if you wanna.
So John, did I hear?
Made a motion to.
John has a motion.
I'll second.
I have a second from Chad. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And
Then the next resolution's 2014-15, and that's for Meyer Distributing / Transit Properties. Those are the buildings up on kind of the hill there. We had, for labor on that, we're 242 above what that was for. Between the two. Real property and the CF1 dash.
Motion that the Transit Properties LLC is in compliance.
I'll second.
motion from Nancy and a second from Phil. And this is with regard to the Kathy Lane property and the 15th Street and Mill Street properties, right? All combined?
Yes, specificity, one is for Meyer Distributing and one is for Transit Properties, is that?
That's correct, yeah.
So Nancy?
Yeah,
you're-
one's property and then one's internal.
I just want to clarify, I have four different SB1s for you, so to make the minutes correct, the two different Meyer ones, can you clarify which one's on which resolution?
Yeah, the two Meyer there's one for each, so one Meyer is 2014-15.
Do you know if that's the Kathy Lane or the 15th?
That is the, that's the 1108 East 15th Street and 30th and Mill Street.
And that goes with the Braun family properties, is what you're saying?
Yeah, we've kind of, well, that one goes with the Transit Properties, which is the 30th and Mill Street building.
Okay.
Those had the same resolution number, and they were basically done at the same time.
Tying those with Resolution 2014-15 together. And with that, I had a motion from Nancy and a second from Phil. Any other discussion? Thank you for clarifying. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is that it then?
Are you Jeff Barth?
Jeff, thank you for all you're doing here.
Appreciate it.
Jeff, you're on time, and
Okay. Apologies, I was on the slow time schedule there, so you guys are moving right along. So I'm Jeff Barth with Jasper Chair Company, and here to represent us for the statement of compliance benefits. So on as far as like real property, you know, the building, everything's still functioning in there. And then on the personal property, same thing goes for as far as the equipment. Everything is still in process and working. So you know, the issues kind of continue to be the employee counts and things like that. You know, it's kind of a roller coaster ride, to be honest about it, up and down a little bit year to year. Like for instance, you know, this past year, we started kind of keeping track of things a little bit, and more so than what we have in the past. And you know, we did interviews with over 150 people, and out of those in 2022, that is, and like 40 were confirmed hires, you know, with a scheduled start date to start. And then out of those 40, three actually showed up for a job. You know, that's just how crazy.
Starting with over 100.
Yeah, we interviewed, actually walked over 150 people through the plant, you know, showing them positions and jobs, and, you know, telling them, hey, what do you like to do? You know, I mean, if you like finishing, or you like you know, you like a machine room, or you like sanding, or, you know, and that's kind of that's the struggle that we have on people count, which I know you people are all aware of that. So
is this the last year of this abatement? 2013-14, so I would assume it is.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that Jasper Chair Company is in substantial compliance.
It's the last year on both of them.
For 20,
Separated, but I would make that motion for both of them.
motion from Nancy and a second from John. Any further discussion?
Keep interviewing all those people.
keep battling every day.
I note that even though the employee count may be down, the salaries are up.
And that's mainly because of,
considerably.
you know, competing with other local businesses, obviously, and over time, we've been working 50. Business is good. It's just, if I could get 10, 15 people, I'd be all in, you know. But so we're kind of, you know, you're working our people hard, but, you know, and they're hanging in there. But, you know, that all, especially come springtime when it gets nice outside, everybody wants to be off on Saturdays, and, you know, I'd enjoy a Saturday off every once in a while too, but it is what it is,
So I'll have the motions personally, or on the personal property. Any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the motions continued on the real estate. And any further discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, council.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
So, appreciate that.
Good to walk through your facility and take a seat.
Right.
Okay. Now we have the department presentation, and I know that's
No, I know, I was just gonna say something else, but it's fine.
Ken? Thank you for waiting through this.
Oh, you're fine. Yep, so fire department, so as you can imagine, every call comes in to our dispatch center, so our dispatch centers do an excellent job in sending the call out to us, whether it's police, fire, EMS, and then keeping us informed while we're on the way so that we really don't get any surprises when we show up, so. Anyhow, today, the fire department, we were at 38 members. We have 2 assistant chiefs, it's Mike Stewart and Wayne Murray. We have 1 captain in Jay Eckstein. We have 7 lieutenants, and the rest of the firefighters make up the 38 people that we have. Of those 38, 34 of those are medically trained. That is a big jump from a year and a half ago where we had 20 or 22. A lot of our younger firefighters are all taking the medical class, and they start out as a emergency medical responder. So they're known as an EMR. We have several EMTs, and we actually have 2 paramedics within our staff, so it's outstanding to have that knowledge and that care on scene. If we have a fire or an accident, and if one of us goes down besides the people that we're treating, it's excellent to have those people on staff as well. The paramedic class is a 2.5-year class above the EMT class, so it's a lot of training and time that they put forth to get there. Anyhow, it's just a great diverse group of people that we have with a lot of different training.
Kenny, do we pay for that training?
The paramedics is done through the hospital. That is not something that we cover. Actually, the 2 paramedics do work for Memorial Hospital, and they see, in working with us at scenes, they actually have joined the fire department after they become paramedics. So it's a win-win for us and for them to have that. So having 38 members at this time, we did have retirement last month. Jeff Luker left the department after 35 years, so he spent a lot of his time there with us. So we currently do not have any knowledge of anyone in the next year or so that may be leaving. With that said, we just never know. But we've got a couple of our senior members. I ran through some numbers here.
They come in on the fire department in groups usually, and we
They
just
do.
recognize 5-year service award winners as well as Jeff.
Right.
Nice to see these individuals that have been on there for 5 years, and they're still the future, Some of these guys, a lot of these guys have been 15, 20 years.
Yes. It's really hard to keep people. They come in, they join, they get to about 10 years, and then their kids are getting to an age where there's so many sports and activities and school functions, and it's hard to keep them. But with that being said, Mike Stewart, as of right now, has 33 years. Jay Eckstein's at 24 right now. Mike Tiley's at 30, and Tim Berger's at 32. So we do have some senior members that, of course, we know that, in the coming years, we'll certainly lose some of that. But, and then after that, we get pretty young. But that's okay. That's how it's supposed to work. So, but Josh Dooley? Yes. Yeah, he was assistant chief, and he asked, because of his employment, to step down from that position. So he stayed on as lieutenant, and then we brought Wayne Murray as an assistant chief. So Josh's employment takes him out of Jasper every day. So he just felt that was a better fit, and he didn't want to, we just need to make sure that we always have those people available. So, but anyhow, so I have given you the paperwork for the 2022. That's the 3 pages that are stapled together. So at the top, you can see that was for January, that first section where it says basic incident year month number, 2201. That's January of 2022. And if you run down through there, you can see we had 1 chimney fire. We had 2 vehicle fires. We had a dumpster and a special outside fire. That actually was a couple that had put a bucket of ashes in a plastic bucket on their patio and left town for the weekend, only for that to catch fire. And it did catch part of the building. So that's kind of a special fire. But every one of those are listed through there. And as you can see, every section is another month. And you can see the big numbers of the medical calls. That's where we have transitioned to be more medical. And that's why you see 34 firefighters out of the 38 that are medically trained. So that's just a transition. We don't require them to be medically trained as of yet, but it's probably going that way. But So,
To Nancy's point, are we paying for the EMR training? No.
yes, we do.
Okay, good.
Not pay for paramedic, but we pay for first responder and EMT.
Okay.
So it's something that really benefits us a great deal to have that training.
Calls come in then, I mean, you got like, the big amount is the medical calls.
Yes,
That comes straight to the fire department?
those calls come in through dispatch, and then in the instance of that baby that we talked about earlier, that was a call that was toned out for Memorial's ambulance and Jasper EMR, or Jasper firefighters. That is impossible for one ambulance with two people in there to be able to take care of the call there, so they automatically dispatch both. If it's a cardiac arrest, if it's an extrication, both departments are paged out at the same time. If the local ambulance is not available and there's an ambulance coming from Ferdinand, Du Bois, or Huntingburg, we provide medical care until they get there. So that's the reason for the inflation of those calls. However, January 1st of this year, the EMS director, Ryan Young, put in place a second ambulance in Jasper. They now have a 24-hour ambulance at Jasper. They now have someone staying at the hospital overnight. You work a 24-hour shift. The second ambulance in Jasper now works from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, 7 days a week. So now we have two ambulances in Jasper where we sometimes had two. Now we always have two. It's worked out. They need less staffing. At 6 o'clock in the evening, that crew's going home, and the other ambulance will take care of any calls available. Our daytime calls have dropped a lot. Right before our meeting, we had a fire call, and some of the guys left for that. That makes 131 calls this year that we've had, and last year on this day, we were at 163. So 32 calls less so far this year. So that ambulance change has made a big difference for us, which is a really nice thing. There's some days we get 4 or 5 calls for medical. So
Averaging 1.5 a day.
exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, there's some that we just like go too often. I think last year in December, we had 60 calls. So that's a lot that's 2 a day. And that's for the volunteer firefighters to leave work, respond to these calls and things. It's asking a lot for the employers and so forth and so on. But anyhow, we feel that change has really made a nice difference. And we can tell by the numbers, which is it's a good thing. So, but we still need those calls to keep them sharp, keep them up on their training and ready. But at the same time, it's nice to not be so busy. So, but also this year in the budget money, we were able to purchase a gear washer. That was installed last week. It came in about 3 weeks ago. It was installed. It's up and running. It works great. The guys love it. It's a great addition for what we need. Before, we were utilizing the local dry cleaners, and the price, due to it not be a local company anymore, the price inflated a lot. So anyhow, this was a nice feature that will last us for at least 20, 25 years. So, and then also last year, we had the new roof put on the fire station, which was budgeted last year. So that has been a blessing to have that taken care of, and no more leaks that we've had over the years. So, but
The gear washer, tell me a little more about that. I mean, so it's the equipment then we're out to the fire then, obviously. So obviously, each person doesn't have a backup, so while their
Correct.
gear is being washed, how long does it take before it's dry again right away?
Yeah, so
They might get called out again.
yeah, so when you wash your gear, there's a liner on the inside that you have to take out that's separate from the outer shell. The outer shell is what has the carcinogens in it. That's the cancer-causing agents and stuff. So that gets washed separate. So we can do 2 sets at a time. We bought a 30-pound gear washer. So 2 sets of outer shells, and as soon as those are done, then we do the liners and wash them separate. The gloves, they never get washed in there. They're supposed to be washed out with Dawn soap and then put on the dryer. Those will take quite some time. The gear washer actually gets it pretty dry by the time it's done, and then we have a dryer we hang it on. It washes for 30 minutes, and within the next few hours it's dry. So we do have a few extra sets of gear, but not enough for everyone, but we do have a few sets. So, but it does take a little bit. So if some of us are in a fire in the morning and we have another one, then there's another crew that's gonna have to be putting their gear on, and the other guys will switch out and run the trucks and do other things that are needed. So, but it's been a great addition, so it's worked really nice for us.
For a second one in the future to help get that turnaround done
I think it's
quicker?
enough for now. We struggled with the location to put one, and we actually, if you're down that way, sometimes stop in and look at it. We've redone a room, and it looks really nice in there, so it's been stop in sometime. It's a great addition. We think it's really nice, so something we didn't really think we needed for years, but now that we definitely did, so. And then also this year, we asked for some new thermal imaging cameras, and the prices came in much lower than expected. We were allowed to purchase 4 instead of the 3 that we looked at, and we're still almost $6,000 under budget, so they came in at a good price. They showed up at Evansville today, so I expect to see those in the next day or so that we'll have those. And they're a very valuable tool for many, many reasons that things that we do. We demonstrated them at the career cruise that was held a couple weeks ago at the high school. For us to be able to see in a wall if there's a fire or where the most heat is, so we can concentrate our efforts on those areas and things. It's a great addition. If you crawl in a burning building that's full of smoke and you couldn't see your hand with that thermal camera, you could see if someone's laying on the couch, on the floor, if there's a dog, you would see that instantly. You can open a bedroom door and you can see instantly if somebody's in that room, and you can either try to get them out as quick as possible, or you can move on to the next room and see. So they're a very valuable tool, and this will greatly help us in our efforts. So
The previous thermal cameras that we had before, have we offered those to any of the local county departments outside of the city that may utilize them, or are they shot?
Our newest one that we have is identical to the ones we just purchased. That we will definitely keep. We have some older units. They're not very reliable. We can look into doing that possibly.
My thought was, again, small department may not have that in their budget. And
Yeah.
something that's even old, not reliable,
Certainly.
or not as reliable as what we
Right.
might see. Maybe handy for them get into the same situation.
I agree. We've done that several times with different pieces of equipment, so we can look at that. And we talk about our equipment, our trucks, if you will. The tower right now is in for repairs. We hope to have that back by the end of the week. Last year, American Test Center came in. They done their testing, identified some leaks, hydraulic hoses and seals, and so on and so forth. So it was a better option to take it to the company to have it fixed there than them to drive to Jasper and multiple trips to fix hoses and things. You can imagine all the hydraulic lines that run back and forth to operate the ladder, the outriggers, and all the different things, and the generator and so forth. So that truck is 29 years old this year. Back when we bought that in 1994, it was $610,000, and so with that, just
$1.5 million replacement, right, or plus?
Corden just received one 3 months ago, and we went and looked at it last month, and theirs was 1.5. And they're telling us now at least 1.6 if we get it now. So we're probably looking at 1.8 to 2 million.
Kenny, I can't remember, you have a fund for that?
We have the fire truck donation account that is gaining some traction. So, I think there's a little bit of a planning process to.
The lease, or, I can't say it now. Oh my gosh.
Lease financing up.
USDA.
Say the organization.
USDA.
Yeah, thank you. I just completely blank. So yeah, we're working with them. They've
That might work for us.
met with them and they've,
We have some options. So, yeah. So
Good to look at options or start an account, start saving.
Craig McGowan, the local rep, right?
Yep.
Talking about that with
Yep.
fire equipment purchases and some low rate lease.
it's not a grant, it's a low interest loan.
They have funds available that you can identify, designate, and we're looking at all that. So it looks promising. So just a rundown of all the other equipment that we own. Engine 7 runs out of the Northside Station. Is our first pumper out, and that's a 2011 model, so it's 12 years old. As you can see, we're going to see some age here. Engine 2 is the first pumper out of the Holy Family Station. It's 2,000 miles, 23 years old this year, so another old truck. Engine 1 at Station 1 is the first out pumper. Last year, it's 1 year old, so it's good there. Engine 6 is a reserve truck out of Holy Family Station, 34 years old. It's doing great, excellent truck. It's a great reserve truck, great backup. We have no issues, not much expense other than it's old technology. It doesn't have all the new software and gadgets and everything, so we've kept it because it's been a really good truck for us and non-issues. And it has a feature that the newer trucks do not have, that we can actually drive through a field and spray water. The other trucks are not possible to do that, so it's a great feature to keep that truck. Our Squad 1 is our kind of our backup rescue truck. It's extrication tools at the Northside Station, 28 years old. The ladder one, the ladder, not the tower, is 18 years old. And of course, the tower was 29 years old, so we're showing some age on our equipment. But for the most part, everything's decent. It passes certification every year, which is really important for ISO. It's a thing that must happen, so we keep everything in great shape. So last year, the firefighters, for their wages for 2022 was $185,000, just over that. So that's what they earned for responding to fires, their trainings, their meetings, their station duty, everything they've done. So we did have several younger firefighters, so we spent more money last year in wages because of getting their training for their firefighter 1-2 classes and for their medical, that EMR class that they took. So, it seems like a lot, but it's nothing compared to full-time staff. So it's a great benefit to have volunteer firefighters and the community, to have those firefighters out working at different facilities, and if something happens there's a trained person that has a lot of knowledge there that can respond and help. So something that is a great benefit. So, but with that, that other page that I gave you was the 2021 numbers, so you can kind of compare back. Those calls were at 498, and then last year was 526. So slight increase, not too terrible. So, but
Chief, appreciate the update on the fire department.
Yep. Can we talk code enforcement real quick? Going to turn this over to Jane. She's going to run the computer. So we researched several companies. Renee and Jane and I did, and so others. And we found that GoGov would be the company that we purchased software from, and we started using that in January of this year. So it's software that. Yep. We're gonna kind of run through what I would do out in the field today. So I have a tablet that we operate with. So she's clicked on the right corner up there. It said create. We're gonna open up a new case. So she put in there a test case now, so we don't throw off our numbers. It's hard to see up there. Okay. So where are you going next? Okay, so it's initiated by, so we're gonna say a neighbor called in. So we're gonna click on there, we're gonna put in a neighbor.
And to be clear, this is stuff that you guys enter in, not the.
We do it internally.
Yes,
Not the public, correct?
yes, no, we do this, yep,
Is this on site?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
After you've received a call,
Yes.
possibly.
Or if we see it's a habitual one that we've been to and visit every year, if we see an issue, then we've done that. Assigned to, so I'll click on there, then my name goes in there, and it can be other people within the city. Property status, if we know it's abandoned or foreclosed, or if it's owner occupied, we can put that, so we're going owner occupied there. Then we're gonna go down to address, and I'm gonna use mine, it's 281, and then you're gonna tab over and put in Gardenia, and hit enter, and to your right, you're gonna see all my information just all populates in there, so it's very simple, very easy. It's a great tool to have. Where are you at now? So we're gonna go down to the violation, and we're gonna do weeds. So we have a weed violation. That automatically populated in the verbiage out of the ordinance that says you must keep your property under 9 inches, all right? We don't have to sit there and type that in. It automatically populates that in there. And then let's hit update. Okay, we're gonna do complaint first. So we're gonna put in there that I was there, we have a complaint, and that the weeds are above 9 inches. So we'll type that in there. So we're gonna update, and now that gives on the very top up there, the screen, that gives us this number. It says code enforcement, it's got the case number, and it's got the date and time that I was actually there. So everything that we do throughout this, if we do any updates in the next few days, it will stamp that time that we were there on the property, the date and time. Which one? Oh, the attachments. So we clicked on the button for attachments, and then we can go put a picture in. So we went over to add files. We're going to go up here and we're going to find a picture. And it will add that picture. It'll add that picture to the software then. So after that picture's in there, I think we can go to print. Is that right? Not yet?
Again, Kenny's got a tablet on site, so he can take the pictures with his tablet, and then everything's there, and he can add those photos to the file on his tablet, but then they are accessible to anybody who's using the system. So Jane at her desk can open that file up, or that code enforcement case, and see those photos.
So we are already using the software, is that correct?
Yes.
As of January.
So then when you do this, maybe I'm jumping ahead, how does that resident know that they've had a complaint? Okay.
Yep. So on there, it automatically puts in like the days when it's going to be due for me to go back, and it'll send an email that says, hey, today was their deadline, and you go back and check the property again. So it does that.
But who's receiving that email?
I will.
Well, what he does, he will have, and actually, that's what this is gonna be here. He actually, with everything that's there, with the push of a button, it will create, once it decides to do it.
Yep, this takes a little bit.
A form that he can print while he's in his truck. And
So-
this is what will get posted out.
You can actually print that on site.
I do. I have a printer in my truck, and I print that, and honestly, I bet you 5 to 6 minutes at a property, and I am on to the next. It is that quick. It generates everything. The language from the software, from the ordinances in there, and everything, whether it's trash or weeds or
So
whatever.
what do you do with that printout?
When I get done, I update it and close it, and the next morning, Jane will
posts
receive.
it.
Leave that neighbor,
Yes.
person you knock on their door?
No, I tape it on the door.
Okay, so why aren't we knocking on the door saying, hey, we've had a violation, you need to take care of this?
Sometimes that goes really well, and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, sometimes they get quite angry.
Well, I'm sure they do, but
This day and age, just be safe. Just be safe out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've had them go really good, and I've had to call law enforcement out. You know, it's like it just does not go the right way. So, but
Good system.
it's very good. The next day, like today, I was, I think, 4 properties. Jane will receive those tomorrow morning. She'll see the 4 I'm at. She will send them out and can say, hey, here's the 4 properties we were at. They can go in, they can see this, they can click on the attachment, open the pictures to see what was there. And then, like say in 5 days from now, if this property's not been mowed, on the 6th day, I'll get the reminder, I will go back to the property. If it's mowed, I can go back, open it up, I can add in a narrative that, yes, the property's been taken care of, it's complete. Then I will close it, and it's done. If it's not done, I can send it to legal then and say, hey, this needs attention. Yes, our street department, they will all be involved in this. And then with the training that they'll get, the street department can go in, if they have to go mow this, they can generate their invoice, they will go in, everything will be in with this system. The invoice that the owners will receive will be in this system. The clerk treasurer's office will have this as well to do their work and updates. So there's a lot of opportunity within this software for things that we can do.
So the homeowner had been notified at least once or twice before the city would step in and mow or doing work in their yard, correct?
Yes, that you're posting.
Yes. Yeah.
For weeds, there's a built-in warning period. So for weeds, we give them that initial notification. At the same time, we send a letter out that says you have 5 days to mow your yard.
Is that 5-day standard on most violations that you're looking at, like bags of trash on the back of the yard, something like that, all of them are different?
Those are all 10 days. Everything, weeds is 5 and everything else is 10.
Weeds are very specific because that's the way the Indiana code calls for it to be. And nothing else has a built-in warning. Kenny can give a warning on any of those other things, but on weeds, we must give them an opportunity to resolve the problem before we can fine them or go in and mow.
And then I have another question. What about the violators from last year that never cleaned up their property? Are they automatically going to be put into this? Because
think
there's some that still have all that trash in the backyard, and you know who I'm talking about. How do we get them in this system?
Yep.
Because, I mean, just because they were last year and they got that ended, it doesn't mean that the problem went away.
Correct, yeah. Anything that we identify now will be taken care of, so we can talk later about some of that, because I think some of that has been addressed. But, so if it comes to this and Jane has to send a letter out, I don't think she has to really spend a lot of time generating a letter. The software's already done that. Hit the print, and before we had to generate the letter and spell out everything, put the address in. This system, everything is there. So it's been working great. So I think we had 3 or 4 weed letters yesterday. We had at least that many today, along with some other stuff. So
it's great.
It's really, really been a good tool for us. So.
And right now, we're just using code enforcement, and it has the potential to be used in traffic, or not traffic, but
Other kinds of code enforcement, like stormwater, parking.
which we could see some advantages to that, too. That's,
Would be other departments using it, though.
Right.
Correct. Mhm. Yeah, we have stormwater issues, and Chad Mooney could go in and fill this out and do the work and so forth. So there's other opportunity besides just.
so
And no additional cost.
this at this made the transition to use it for code enforcement, so this is our new operating system.
We had training about 6 weeks before the first of the year, just doing some demo cases and stuff, and then the first of the year, this is what we've gone to. Everything will be in this. So there's no other.
There's no external keeping of emails or keeping
Correct.
of files or everything goes through here.
Yeah.
So I think what Nancy, what you asked about some of those previous violators, we're gonna have good records of this and have a trail.
Correct.
So this has to be initiated by a call first now. There's no other, right now, where there's no portal or anything that,
That's correct.
a neighbor can say, hey, I got a problem with a neighbor or something like that.
That's correct.
They still need to call in, correct?
If we get to the point, or not if, but when we get to the point that we've got all of the departments online, that's not, on board, then we do have an option of creating a mobile app for our community so that people can download that mobile app onto a device or go online and use that to report a complaint.
Kenny, if you see something, you still stop with.
Yes. That's correct. Yep. Yeah, some of them you just drive down the road, it's like, oh. And a lot of them are repeat customers from the previous years. So,
We have other departments that see things when they're out that contact Kenny.
187 eyes and ears. Double at ears, but.
Sets of,
yep,
They should always be looking, so.
Looks like a great system.
it is. There's a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity for this. It's worked
Thanks for
well.
demoing that.
Yep, that's all I have unless you have something else for me.
Nope, thanks, Kenny.
Appreciate everything you're doing, leading that group. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the TIF management report.
I provided you all with a copy of the TIF management report that was uploaded to Gateway prior to the April 15th deadline. This report was prepared by Baker Tilly. It is an overview of the revenue and expenditures for the 3 TIF districts that we do have. The top report was a high-level overview, and then there's a report per each TIF district attached. This was provided to the Redevelopment Commission at their regular meeting on April the 4th. And I just have to give this to you for information purposes only, and no action is required on your part.
Questions or for Kirsten?
Pretty straightforward.
No action required there, then the, no other items to come before the council.
I have one just question about some previous discussion. People were asking, and I don't have answers about the food and beverage tax that may be implemented going forward. Just for clarity and to review, it is, the question was asked about a caterer who might be domiciled in Jasper, who is serving out of the city somewhere. Would they be subject to the food and beverage tax?
It's in those guidelines.
Yeah, it is. It does, and I can't, I'm sorry, I
think
can't remember.
from what I have read, it depends on the location that they're catering to.
Yeah.
So if their catering is located in Jasper and they are catering in Jasper, then they would be subject. But if they're catering to a community outside of Jasper, then they wouldn't be charged.
It's where they are
Where
catering,
they are catering to
not where they,
are
Are
located.
located.
business is located.
Right.
Unless that other community had a food and beverage tax.
Correct.
Well,
Then they would be subject to that already.
And then one other question was asked about, like Strassenfest, that's not going to impede upon
No.
those sales, or food trucks that would
Yes,
would be
yes.
subject to those taxes, okay. That's it, that's all, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You have a motion from Kevin for adjournment?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Dave. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.